Hey guys, welcome to the Off Duty podcast, the one-stop shop where we talk love, work, pleasure, and how we are going to create the lives that we desire.
So, grab a beverage, get cozy, and let's get ready for today's conversation. Hi guys, this is post-production. Daniela coming at you, and Penny, because she's here too. And we just wanted to give a little bit of a trigger warning because we are going to be talking about our bodies and all the different things that can come with that, and that might be really difficult.
So just be cautious. If this is a subject which is a bit difficult for you, feel free to kind of just not listen, because we all have different relationships with our bodies. And
You gotta take care of you, boo.
First and foremost. And then drink water.
Mind your business. But yeah.
Peace out.
Enjoy the episode.
Enjoy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Yeah, girl's tired.
Tired.
She's tired. These 7 a.m. driving lessons.
They're not a cute look.
They're really not. I should be getting my beauty sleep.
Honestly, do you know what? You should protest, because
should I strike as a driving what?
As a driving instructor.
As a driving student.
Screaming. Maybe you should. Treat yourself.
How are you?
Yourself. I'm good, thank you. I am just here going through the motions of uni. I feel like it's a constant theme.
Yeah.
Constant ongoing theme that I feel like every time we're recording, I'm always in the middle of assignments and just all this. But do you know what?
Soon end.
The end is near. I can see it. I can actually smell it. I can feel it in my bones.
Can you touch it?
I can feel it. How's your week been?
My week's been it's been emotionally charged. I think that's the term I was going to use.
Emotionally charged.
It's been emotionally charged.
That just gave me like a thunderstorm. Like, you know, like a...
No, that was exactly what it was. Like a very thick, dark purple clouds, electricity.
Yeah.
That was the week.
Damn.
Yeah, it was.
You're fighting for your life?
I really was. I think work got a little bit on top of me this week. It was just a bit heavy. Mental health is not an easy field to be in. Health is not an easy field to be in. I think a big part of what was really heavy about this week is that it's just that reminder that systems are just consistently just letting people down.
That part. And
there's only so much I can do that we can do as a team when you're working with like individuals. And it's just,
It's both the beauty and also the tragedy of life.
Yeah.
It allows you to give your all, but also just know that there's only so much that's within your control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you have to it's a reminder you have to give yourself every time when you work in health, and for me, mental health. But it's fine. We have bad days, we have good days, and this was just
part
a bad
of life.
Yeah, it was just a bad
What's
week.
that thing? That
week.
ECG trace. If it's a flat line, you're dead.
Exactly. And I'm not dead.
We love that.
How was your week?
My week's been fine. Do you know one thing I'm really grateful for this week? Because we've had a lot of flowers in the house. The house just smelled of roses, and I was just like, I love this, because I feel like growing up, this is something which I really envisioned in my future, and I love that it's
reality.
It's a reality, and so I'm really grateful for that.
That's great.
And but it has been really dark and cloudy. Like, I need the sun.
Yeah.
I need May to stop playing about.
Girl.
We get that climate change is climate changing, but also
can the sun?
Like, if I have to get up and go to work every day, can it also do its job? Like, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Like, come on.
Not the same hours. Girl. Anyway. What is your fun fact for this week?
Oh my goodness, I completely forgot we're doing fun facts. So my fun fact for this week is
Yes.
I turned 25.
Yes.
And I went and got my cervical cancer screening. So for all my babes who have turned 25 or who are beyond 25 and not had their cervical cancer screening, please guys, go get these things checked because it's very important.
Yeah.
It's essential.
It is. Yeah. I don't really know much about, to be honest, about like the cervical cancer stuff. I just know that it's something that's kind of like recommended to sort of do. I know we talked about it a little bit last time. But yeah, what I do know is that it's important.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know what's also interesting? Not interesting, but when we were volunteering in Uganda, I worked with a doctor, gorgeous, beautiful doctor, great, very very smart. She did like she did a cervical cancer screening for women postpartum, and for those that don't know, women who have HIV are more susceptible to this, and being screened will not find out whether you've got cancer. However, it does find abnormal cells that might exist within your cervix and increase the likelihood of you having cancer. So that's why it's important, and that's why they vaccinate us. So the vaccination story, I'm not even going to get into there, but guys, go get screened because we need to be running the world in the next few years and we need to be healthy.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, get your cervical screening, guys.
Get your cervical screening.
Okay, so my fun fact for this week is one of my favorite childhood shows was...
Not her, who doesn't have favorites.
You were absolutely right.
One of my favorite.
Did I?
You did.
Okay, perfectly. One of my favorite childhood shows is the show called Mimi Powers. And fun fact as well, it was also my first anime. That was my introduction to the anime community. The anime community. And I have such fond memories of that show. My little like 12-year-old, 10-year-old like heart was obsessed with Mimi Powers. It's such like a nice fun memory. I remember going onto YouTube because they only had like a certain amount of episodes dubbed on the English channels. Pop Girl, shout out Pop Girl Girls.
Hi.
I was on YouTube listening to it in like, I think it's Japanese, and literally just in like 280 whatever that quality thing. Yeah. And I was just
having your best life.
I was living my best life. I was free.
Nah, do you know what you should do for your 30th? You should host a Mimi Powered themed birthday party. Right?
That would be really cute.
That would be so sick.
To make it more open, maybe we could do like a little like just powered girls. Like, you know, there's because it's like a genre.
Yeah,
there's like
true.
Sailor Moon. I can't think of any. There's like I think Winx Club would technically be part of it.
Yeah.
Do you think?
I think
it's slightly different animation, but like it's the same vibe. Yeah.
All of us come in leotards, dressed
fairy wings. That would be fun.
That's a vibe.
That'd be so cute.
That'd be very cute.
But yeah, that was my little fun fact for the week.
Well, thank you. So what's your love note for the week?
My love note. Okay, my love note is from TikTok. It was actually
the Clock app.
The Clock app. I know. I clock in daily.
She's there on time every day.
Girl. Multiple shifts.
Punctual, love that thesis.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So my love note is from TikTok. It was a video by an individual whose handle is at Sit with Viv on TikTok. Okay. And in the video, she's essentially just in her car, and she says, "This might hurt a little or help a little, but you're the adult in your life now." Let me just say that again because I messed it up. This might hurt a little or help a little, but you're the adult in your life now. And
why is Sit with Viv shouting?
Do you know? I feel like it was, the tone of it was like quite gentle,
but loud.
Gentle, yeah, gentle but loud. A firm hand. I think it reminded me again of that saying that I think we said it in maybe one of the first few episodes, maybe not, I don't remember. Which was no one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
But I just felt like this was a lot gentler way of kind of saying that. And I think it's comforting in some ways, obviously, because we are then the people who are going to give ourselves what we deserve, right, and what we need in the times that we need them. And on the other hand, it's a little bit scary to have all that like responsibility.
God.
But yeah, I think it's a nice.
Do you know what's so nice about it? I feel like it's talking to your 20-year-old self who's like, do you know what? I'm grown now. I've got everything sorted. I've got it handled. But actually, you know, then you realize at 25, like, I actually really do not have this handled. And that's very soft. I do agree with you.
It's like not pushing the hard, like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this, you need to do that. Yeah, it's just gentle. It's gentle. What's your love note this week?
So my love note, I was reading this morning and I found it this morning, and so I changed it. So I got it from a book by Scott Peck, which I'm constantly going on about. It's taken me a while to read it, but never mind that. The book says, if you want to know the closest place to look for grace, it's within yourself. If you desire wisdom greater than your own, you can find it inside you. What this suggests is that the interface between God and man is at least the interface between our conscious and unconscious. God is within us. We are part of God all the time. God has been with us all along, is now, and will always will be. And this chapter that I was reading was about giving yourself grace. And so basically they were saying that we are all generals in our own life. And so whatever action we always take, it's going to influence like the whole of civilization. And being loving is a radical act, and a way in which we can fight oppressive systems by realizing that grace is within us and belongs to us. And so yeah, and I just found it really touching.
Yeah, I think it is a really touching passage actually. It reminds me a lot of the conversation I was having with Numsa like maybe like 2 weeks ago or something, and again with another friend. And we're talking about like religion and how that kind of aligns with our like identities now. And I was just kind of like, because you know there's so much because I've grown up Christian, I'm Christian, and I think there's like a lot of discourse like right now in my stage of life where I'm not going to like church as like regular as I did when I was young, for example, and maybe I'm not reading the Bible, and like I'm just having a different interaction with the religion as compared to when I was younger. And we're just talking about sort of the downsides and the upsides of it. And I'm of the opinion that there's just so much. Humans taint so much. We've tainted so much with
free of charge.
We've tainted so much, and I think the only truth I can have and I can trust is the truth within myself.
Yes.
And I have to like just believe that all the experiences that I've had have led me to a place where I have like enough knowledge and enough understanding, and that's something that is constantly being kind of like revised and learned from and added onto, and that is that knowledge and that discernment that I have is all I can really trust. That and my gut, my spirit, like, and knowing that's the connection I have with God. And if I felt like something I was doing, or like something that is supposedly quote unquote opposed to like God or to the Bible, for example, that I have that discernment, and that my communication and my like relationship, my personal relationship with God would mean that I would feel that is wrong. Because you just, I don't know, there's just a lot of, do you know what I mean, with like, especially with Christianity and
our
the history,
especially.
and like the history of that and how it was used to oppress people and like all of the different interpretations, and it's just a lot.
Yeah, I definitely feel
so
like
that's where I'm at right now. I think that's what that passage reminded me of.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah,
and I definitely think that God is a personal. Well, we will get into this at a later date, but God, that relationship of God and how God exists and shows up in our lives is such a personal and relative experience.
Yeah.
And that reminder that I think more than anything from what I've learned from this book, it's knowing that there's a higher power and there's somebody above you and there's a spiritual person working within your life, and that there's so many things that cannot be explained is probably one of the most important things than like not having belief or having a belief but then kind of looking down at everyone else like, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the most important part is having God in your life, but then what you do with it, it's up to you, as long as you're not hurting anybody. So
religion's dicey, faith is dicey, and I think religion and faith are different. Anyway, we're not gonna get into it now because that's not what this episode's about.
That's not what this episode is about.
What is this episode about then, Penny?
Oh, this episode, I'm so excited. I'm not excited because it's deep. Yeah. This episode is about our bodies. There's so many different, we're going to talk about perspectives actually. So there are a lot of different perspectives when it comes to our bodies. So we've got our own lenses that we perceive and look at our body through. And then our personal perspective. And then we've also got society's perspective, how it sees us or how our bodies should be.
Right.
Nonsense. And then we've also got the medical perspective, which in my personal professional opinion is the most violent one. And anyway, with that said about the different perspectives that exist, I found a different thing which kind of like made me look into this whole topic even more. And this person was talking about, it's a man who went from being 5'5" to being 6 foot using a limb lengthening surgery. And this person called Dreadful for Times went and said, cis people also getting gender affirming surgery. And I was just like, this is so true. This is so crazy. How people just don't understand how all these like systems that we talk about interact with each other, but people will think, oh no, they're all separate, but actually this is you getting gender affirming surgery because patriarchy will have you believe that this is, as a man, this is what you should be, this is how tall you should be, but actually no. And for us as women, our interaction with it as black women, so we contend with the Kardashians existing and how they have molded this, how they've really shaped how we perceive our own bodies and
just been the headliners.
The headliners, and at the other side of that, we have had to, not we personally, but society and like trends, people are trying to conform to this standard, which is ultimately, first of all, unattainable because trends are constantly changing, and also people are trying to do what they can to survive, so they have to change with the trend if that's the industry that they're in. But it's just harming us. It's harming us, and black women are at the bottom of that. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I think it's just like really sad that I think it's really sad because like ultimately all of this stuff is just made up. It's just so sad how thoroughly embedded it gets into our minds, into all the different systems that you've talked about, right? And somehow that has been affirmed with medicine and science. Can
we talk about the? Honestly, this is, so when I was saying the whole medical perspective being so violent, we have this, we seem to think that whole belief, we're going to go to our doctor, they've done all this, they've done however many years in medicine and whatnot, and they're going to understand you. Actually, no. Because what do you mean? All that grace and all the things, it's all within you. And so when you go and say, my body is telling me this.
Yeah.
You can't tell someone else to tell you, no, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, like, all a lot of the science that we know is based off of already, like, racially biased things and, like, research.
It's just so sad. Honestly, like, last year when the news was talking about how Kim had starved herself to try and, like, fit in this dress by Marilyn Monroe.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, what kind of example are you actually setting for? You have young black women, you have children that are black, and what kind of example are you setting for not just your kids but the rest of the young girls who are impressionable?
Yeah. It's like everyone is just in shackles. Everyone's just in shackles. It's a lot. And to speak about the young girls, like, I just think about, like, I think we're going to get into this in terms of, like, our own journeys with our bodies, but I just think of, like, when you're young, before you even have a chance to really figure out, again, it's to do with your own voice, right? Before you even have a chance to figure out your own voice, your own belief system, figure out what it is that you agree with, what you don't agree with, you are already flooded with all these, like, false messaging about what you should look like, how you should be presenting, and all of that. Ultimately, if you're a dark-skinned black, like, woman, girl, and that's not even going into, like, whether you're disabled or not.
Oh my goodness, don't.
It's like everything you are is the antithesis of what you should be, of what is deemed lovable, what is deemed valuable, and it's just so. It's so heartbreaking.
It's so violent. It's so violent.
And for what? For the gag is, what is it all for? Nothing. Because
do you know what? People, the fact that we live in a society that has made us believe that violence exists in, they only acknowledge the physical form of violence,
right.
The physical manifestation of violence.
Yeah.
However, if you tell me I'm going to go to my GP and tell them these are my symptoms, and they're going to be like, oh no, this is this.
Right.
So a few months ago, I...
Lose some weight. Your BMI's high.
First of all,
it's actually sick.
I remember a few months ago, I had an interaction with a GP, and this was the first ever time I interacted with a doctor, and I felt like I was heard in my whole 25 years of being on this earth. And also, bear in mind, I actually come from a medical background. And so, to have felt like... And the thing is, I have the privilege of being able to speak the English language fluently, and also the privilege of having medical knowledge and say to them, these are my symptoms. Yeah. And so what about the people that don't? Yeah. And so how people try to make this disconnect between maternal mortality rates, more black women dying because of this, because of it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's all linked to just make sure that we're suffering.
For free?
Was that like a public, like, was that NHS or was that private?
It was public.
Was it?
It was public, but because it was an urgent appointment. Okay. They were like, we can't give you an appointment with your GP. However, we're going to refer you to this person. They're going to call you at this time. Okay. There's a video appointment. And then the lady, there's a way this woman spoke to me, and I was heard for the first time. Wow. My first memory of, like, medical interaction with medicine. Yeah. There's a time when I was 13. I was violently vomiting. I never vomit. Like, you know, I can never ever vomit. Yeah. I was having stomach cramps. Told my mum, I was like, my stomach's hurting. I don't feel right. She's like, just go to the toilet. I carry on. I'm like, I don't feel right. I'm in so much pain. Like, oh, lie down, take pain relief. Again, it's the appropriate answer. However, my pain got so much. I had to go to hospital. Yeah. Started vomiting. The nurse was like, oh, you're gonna spread infection. You should go home. You should be in A&E. Anyway, turned out that either my appendix had ruptured, or I ended up having, like, a cyst in my ovaries or something. Had to have an emergency I had to have an emergency operation to take out my appendix. And I was like, if my parents did not advocate for me, and also if I didn't carry on like pressing, what then?
And how would you even think of that though? You're 13.
13 years old.
And you know what? These are the sort of interactions that happen that mean that, you know, black people and like just people of color are just so reluctant to go to the doctors in the first place. And it's like that thing you were saying about how people don't go in for such, you know, you were saying you were getting more regular checkups, just for general, just as a full body work thing, and how people don't go into hospital for ages and ages and ages, and you don't even see what the progression of your body is. Yeah. You don't see what has been. You can't track things early because you're not going, and that's because you don't trust. Exactly. You don't trust to be heard, to be listened to for your needs to be addressed, and all of that.
Do you know, this brings me on to something that I had sent to one of my friends this morning. Yeah. Again, when I was reading Scott Peck this morning, when I was reading the book by Scott Peck this morning, he was basically saying how he said mental illnesses are manifestations of grace. He was saying
of what? Sorry.
Manifestations of grace.
Mental illnesses are manifestations of grace.
Yes. Okay. So his point was, the point that I was bringing forward was, the illness itself, it's not something that arises at that point. It's something that occurs over so many years. The fact that there are these unwanted symptoms, say like panic attacks, depression, is the beginning at which where you as a person, obviously it's not as black and white as this, the symptoms, the fact that they're unwanted makes them all the more a phenomenon of grace, a gift of God, a message from your unconscious, if you will, to initiate self-examination and repair. And I was just like, wow. Because honestly, we, from a young age, there's so much that's happening to you. And do you know that saying of how trauma is within your body and it builds up and then you pass it on to generations? That illness that you're carrying, that could be from your grandparents and your ancestors and do you know what I mean? And then it manifests as you, but it's not a manifestation in a negative sense. It's a manifestation that's a cry for help, where it's like, you need help. You need to go for help. And that's why, in terms of like checkups, all these different things, this is why you pay your parents, your sisters, your brothers, everyone pays taxes, so that you can use these health systems. You've not been for a check. When's the last time you've been to the doctors? Go get those bloods taken.
You're waking up with headaches when you're sleeping. And
girl,
well, maybe something's wrong.
That's not normal. To your
body. And I think you've just touched on something that, so like me and my like colleague, we will talk about like diagnoses and stuff like that, and what like the value of them, and it's that thing of labels, right? Anyway, we'll get into that. What is also really, really jarring is that we live in a society where things are really difficult, right? It's really difficult to exist as a human person. And there's so many thoughts in my brain right now. I'm like, oh my god, that lady said this. Oh, what is this? But ultimately, what I'm trying to say is that we live in a society that is anxiety inducing.
Girl.
People don't have places to live. Apparently you should be working hard. You should be struggling to make sure that you have a house, that you have shelter, that you have food to eat, that you have a place to go and use a toilet without having to pay 20p in whatever thing, or buy something at the shop. Like, what do you mean I have to pay to use the toilet? Am I gonna pee myself? Do you want me to do it right here?
Like, let's be for real. Let's actually be for real, because you're testing me. Naughty. And naughty. Do not test me.
Because like, we live in a society that is anxiety inducing. It's depressing.
And then you fair place. Sorry.
No.
Because I feel like it's part of it.
Yeah.
Anxiety inducing.
It's anxiety inducing. It's depressing. And then you'll have these feelings inside of you, right? And the solution to that is have some meds, talk to someone. And it's like, again, it's internalized. Like everything, we internalize so much. And it's like, actually, maybe the problem isn't that I'm an anxious person or that I'm a depressed person. It's that the way that life is not conducive to human existence.
Like, Simple.
And it's not us. It's not me. It's not you. It's not your friend. It's not, you shouldn't, it's not that you are like this nervous body and you overthink everything. It's that we live in a society that has just not been built for us to actually thrive.
Please tell me how. We had debt collecting shows, all these different things growing up, right? Yeah, you've got people taking private jets. You've got industries, oil industries, who in the first 3 months of this year have made billions in profit. But there's children dying because there's mold in their house. There's children dying because they're cold.
It's so
But you will not increase the minimum wage. Please, Lord, tell me what people are doing with this money in the next life, because I need to know because we can all chase after it. Like these people,
because they must know something that we don't.
They must know something that we don't.
The government is so
violent.
It's like the way that people are living, the way that we're living is so against. It's like I feel like it's a human rights like violation.
Well, we're not part of the bloody EU human rights thing anymore, so I don't really know what.
No human rights for us,
girl. Please talk about that thing of third place, because I feel like it's so important. To this discussion.
Okay, so a few weeks ago, whatever, like things that were coming onto my TikTok were this subject about a third place, a third space, and essentially what it was saying was that the first place is your home. You're in your home, you come, you sleep, you rest, you're supposed to relax here, and then you've got a second place, which is work. You'd go out to work, you'd go to like teach, or you'd go to I don't know what people do. Wherever you work, you'd go there. And then the third space would be somewhere like a community centre or a cafe shop or a youth club or just somewhere else that you go to interact with other people, solely to like make friends, to just have discussions, to enrich that part of your life, your life skills part. But the way that we are developing now, with COVID, people having to quarantine, work from home, this idea of like a third space is going, and to some extent even a second space, because with the working from home, you're just at home.
And also,
the libraries, all the places, the community spaces are kind of all the funding, the budget for them is all literally just depleting to zero. There's not that many community centers anymore. The libraries are being shut down. The places that you can go to really actually have like community, to like commune with other human beings, is gone. So all you're doing is that you're sitting in your house, you're sleeping here, you're quote unquote relaxing here, you're working in the same space, you're seeing someone maybe on TikTok, on FaceTime, messaging on social media, but there isn't that third space is really lacking. Anyway,
but
that's
do you know what's so interesting with what you just said? And then your second place is a place where you face institutionalized racism, you face all this discrimination, and then you're supposed to just deal with the rest of yourself. It's so sad, because when we go back, bringing it back to the topic of like bodies, because if you did have that third space, remember how you'd have Zumba at a community centre, and you'd be around like women who look like you're talking about your bodies and how the bodies have changed.
Talk about share recipes, because food for the soul.
Do you know what I mean? And so all these, it's just so crazy how all these systems are interlinked. And you were saying back before how essentially health is a business, and so the trajectories and the way in which the system is designed and the way in which they project it to go is to serve them,
to make more money.
And the thing is, there's a lot of discussion about the privatization of healthcare within the UK right now. And so ultimately, when you think about it, will privatization change the existing inequalities?
It'll make them worse,
because there's people there's just so much.
I mean, and I guess try to like silver lining, not that there's always a silver lining, but I think there's more at least in my side of the algorithm, there's just more people that are aware of this truth. And I think a lot of discomfort that we feel is because we know that, at least for me, like spirit is not aligned like with what is going on.
Yeah,
like it's
true.
not aligned, and so you feel this, to quote Nums's word, chronic dissatisfaction.
Girl.
You feel it because, not because you're an anxious person, but because how life is right now is not, that's not the best way you could be.
And it's deliberate, and it's, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And I think there's more and more people who are creating these spaces, and I think that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create like a community spaces, events that we can come and like have these type of interactions, and you can have this quote unquote third space. And actually, when I was out the other day, because guys were trying to run, I was running, and this gentleman ran after me, and he was like, I just saw you running, like so really, like just like bigging me up for running. He was so sweet, and he gave me this fight. I wish I'd brought it here with me so I could read it out. But why do I have tears in my eyes right now? It just came up, and he was like, just bigging me up. I was like, oh, I just saw you running. It was so like, it's so cool to see. Here's a flyer. I do this like circuit training, whatever, on Saturdays. It's completely free. And if you have children or anything like that, my wife takes care of the kids. Free.
Wow.
Free.
That is beautiful.
And it was like, we provide fruits. Just come through. Just donate what you can. It's on Saturday. I hope to see you. Anyway, I forgot. I didn't go. But do you know what I mean?
You like find people, that flyer and try and go.
People are just like, we feel it.
Yeah.
And we're doing our best, and like people are trying to create these communities and like these more human.
Do you know what that just reminded me of?
Things, interactions, I don't know. Insert word here.
Yeah, definitely. It just reminded me of like the fact, do you know the love note that was saying how we are all generals, and whatever action we take, it's a radical act against the system, the oppressive system. Yeah. And that's him. Yeah. That is so beautiful.
Him and his wife. Like when he was telling me about it, I was just like, wow. First of all, thank you for running after me and telling me. And also like, if I hadn't been out that random day at that specific time, that interaction would never even happened.
Yeah. That's true.
Like we're human, we seek community. Like humans are, we have our downsides, but like we're just so.
With that said, so tell me about what your journey is. Let's bring it back from 30 minutes ago. I didn't even finish my question, not you.
What's the question?
Screaming.
I read your mind.
I'm so dead, not you. I want to neck my sorry.
Tell me the mic out.
What's been your journey? Where you at?
With my body?
Actually, let's start from the beginning.
The beginning. In the beginning. That was me. Mum met Dad.
You're saying you did not get dropped by a storm.
I was literally about to say no. They met and then they got married, and then they did an application online, and then a stork delivered me because I'm a gift. I'm
from God.
A gift. Exactly. So my journey with my body it's been a tumultuous one. Very obviously I've grown up here mostly, so I'm going to kind of talk about my journey here. So when I was in Uganda, so I came when I was 8. When I was in Uganda, I don't have that many memories of that time. But what I do remember is I don't ever remember feeling discomfort around my body, about my existence. And it was.
But maybe, sorry.
No, go on.
Could it perhaps be because you were too young to even?
Potentially. But at the same time, though, when I came here and I was 8, I remember all of those emotions. Not all of them. Let me not gossip, but
Not
I remember
gossip.
the general tone of how I felt when I was younger,
Yeah.
and it was giving
Trauma.
It was giving trauma. It was giving discomfort.
Oh no.
Yeah, and obviously when I came in, I lived in kind of like it wasn't like a black neighborhood or like it wasn't a mixed neighborhood. It was mostly like white people, and so immediately I felt out of place because obviously I've not been existing with white people before. I've been with black people, and so immediately it was very much like, oh, I'm the other.
Was that like the first feeling that you felt?
Yeah, it was that feeling of, oh, I'm not like everybody else, and that is.
Sorry.
No, go on.
So, you're not like everyone else, but in what way?
So just realizing, for example, that I'm black and they're not, and also the treatment that then garners. Hearing that my accent is different from their accent, struggling to say certain letters like G. I
know you from the roots,
girl. It was like eating food, my body developing in a really accelerated way, if I could use that word. Like starting my period when I was 8. When I first came to this country was when I started my period.
That is so sad. Imagine. Do you think that was because you were like so stressed about the? Do you think that could be?
I honestly feel like it was definitely triggered by my move here. It was absolutely triggered by my move here. The change in food, the change in atmosphere, like my own obviously stress and feelings, all of it. And I remember just to circle back to the medical stuff. I remember going to the doctors with my mum, because my mum was worried because she's like, this girl, she's a baby. Why is she starting her period?
What?
Doctor, help, please,
please.
But obviously they did not. She was
one thing about those
girl.
They're gonna stay true to it. No, go to the doctor, seek help when you need help.
I went and she was they were like, I don't remember who it was, but they were like, oh well, she's not 7, so it's not an issue. She's 8.
That is so violent.
Bearing in mind, when I first came to this country, I had just turned 8.
That is
shortly after I started my period, and they were like, oh well, she's technically 8, which is technically within range. So
that's so heartbreaking.
It is so heartbreaking,
especially for 8-year-old Danny.
Honestly. And obviously my body developed very quickly. I became the big girl very early on in my childhood, and being around like sort of people who just were not like big like me. And I wasn't even big. I used that word I used that word in relation to like the kids of that time. And my body just developed very quickly. I got hips, I got a big bum, my breasts came in.
Do you know what I just thought of? Do you know what you think of like, yes, Simon, they're so small and scrawny.
Literally tiny.
Oh, bless you.
I know. And I just remember feeling like this word like an intrusion, which is
wow.
Which is like dramatic, or it might sound dramatic, but honestly, like at that age, that's how I felt. I just remember like hating, like when we finally started like kind of like going into town with your friends, you know, like you're a big girl now, big kids going into town, going cinema by themselves. Part of the things that we would do is like go shopping, and like at that time Primark was the girl. She was the main character. So we would all just go in there, and obviously, especially back then, the clothing was just so like uninclusive, not inclusive, yeah, not inclusive. And if you're first of all, I'm dark skinned, right? I'm going in there, I'm trying to find clothes, I'm bigger, and specifically they're all like wearing like size like 6, 8, and me being my young self, I'm going in and I'm having to get maybe like a 12 or something, or like a 10, and already that is just playing in my mind. I'm already feeling like, oh, you're fat, or you're this, you know, trying to make myself as small as I possibly can, not being able to fit into clothes that I'm supposed to be fitting in. It was just, it was jarring.
Violent.
It was really violent. But again, talk about internalizing, all of that is just internalized.
Yeah.
And then you have that society that was just kind of promoting and just showing only like really thin models. And like, I think there was that whole discussion at the time around anorexia and like models and stuff like that. Like they were thin people.
Yeah.
Thin white people.
Yeah.
And that was, again, antithesis of who I was and who looking at this is what the idea of beautiful is.
Yeah. And you'd have the most beautiful woman of this year.
Yeah.
And it'd be this woman with brown eyes, long flowing hair. Literally, you could see their bones like poking out.
Yeah. And it's like, well, actually, I'm just like this dark-skinned girl who's got like really curly hair, which she straightens, right? Which she relaxes, burns the curls out of her hair.
And your hair follicles literally on your scalp. Honestly.
Anyway, so yeah, and do you know what? Actually, speaking about like being dark, like I have this memory of a friend at the time. We were close as well. She was light skinned. She was black as well, and we were just talking about, I don't know, faffing about. I ended up talking about my wrists, for example, for some reason. And obviously your wrists are lighter than like the rest of your body generally. And I remember her saying, "Oh, you'd be so pretty if you were that light." And in that moment, I remember feeling like my heart had dropped, but then also like agreeing with her.
But you didn't have the language. You didn't have the language to even be like, you know, your soul knowing.
Yeah.
That is so sad.
And it's like in that interaction as well, it's not that she was being mean or she's being.
Yeah.
That was just how we were at that time. That was the thinking that we had.
And still are right now.
Yeah.
And
like,
still are right now, sorry.
No, it's true.
Because men will come to you and be like, oh yeah, I prefer light-skinned girls. Okay. But preference is something that you choose. You do you, bro.
And so again, just that reaffirming that you are not what is beautiful, you are not what is correct, what is right, what you should be, and just the feelings of hate, the self-hate that you'd have at that age, that I had at that age. Do you know what I mean? And I think the thing that helped me was that I had like, my mum was, whilst I experienced that and I felt that, I think at home, right? And I think we talked about this even in like, I think potentially just Ugandan society, like being thin and all that stuff, it's not really something that exists, at least in the same way that it does here, or it did then, back then.
You're poor, bigger people are more wealthy.
Or Nidira.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But they associate like the size of your body to like having more wealth.
Yeah.
And when you're skinny, you're broke, you can't afford food.
Yikes. And my mum was just very like, she never made me feel bad about anything about myself, and I'm just like really grateful for that. Obviously whilst there's that protection from, I guess, the outside elements to some extent when you're at home, because I had that haven, thank God, which a lot of young girls don't have, a lot of young boys, non-binaries, whatever, everyone, you don't always have that. Whilst that was the case at home, when you're outside like that, there isn't that protection.
Yeah.
And even to the extent of like, I was obviously feeling discomfort around my body to begin with, but then you have like catcalling, but trying to chat up a child.
And they say that women are the problem. How they dress is a problem. Jeez. Because
the tea is, I'd be having my school uniform on. They know how old you are in high school.
Jeez.
Do you know what I mean?
Scary.
And so like alongside that, you just feel like really, just like, I felt really just uncomfortable within myself. I felt really, really, really uncomfortable within my body.
Yeah.
Because of obviously the the physical aspect of it, but then also just being made like, because I obviously I knew that was not a correct interaction, right, to be having, but again, not having the knowledge, not having the real understanding, and not really knowing what to do about it, I then internalize it. It's me, it's my body. I wish my body would look different. I wish I could, wanting to just like remove like your bum and this is essentially like, with like cosmetic surgeries and stuff like that. It's literally like sometimes people are literally just like slicing themselves.
It's scary.
And those type of thoughts was the thoughts that I was having when I was in high school and younger.
And even like with that concept of cosmetic surgery, even do you know what we see of it as well? It's the final product. People don't show. Do you know, for example, like as a nurse, if I'm preparing like a patient for theatre, going to theatre is not a small thing, and people have just normalized it and minimized like how much risks there is. Like, of course, the risks have been minimized from back in the day. However, why we have normalized it so much to a point where having these modifications done to you as though you're not risking your whole life because you are. And also because this has like infiltrated down from like the top down. People with wealth and people who have money to get the best care, to get all these different things and maintain this, they show the final product and people think, okay, I'm gonna go get it. But they don't realize that if I get a boob job in 4 years time, I'm gonna have to go back and get it checked. But people don't see that far ahead, or people don't have that same knowledge depending on where it is they go. And if we're speaking about working class people, they're gonna go somewhere where it's within their financial bracket, and they might not disclose that information.
And I think as well, like, just to talk about social media just like a little bit, I think while social media has been really good at normalizing celebrities, on the flip side of that, because they're normalized, it's like we almost compare ourselves to them in like as if we are in equal positions.
Like that part.
And I think that comes into when you're saying about you then go do something, you go somewhere shady to try and get the same thing because you're thinking, oh well, they're doing it, we're all the same. It's like you think that we have the goalposts are just not the same. The elastics aren't the same. We're in different positions. That's what privilege is.
Exactly.
But because of social media, I think it normalizes them, and like it can fool us into thinking we're in the same position. We're really not. We're really, really
and
not.
And it's like, do you know what's so scary? Like, I think my perspective of like getting cosmetic surgery is like, okay, you do you. However, it's the foundations of it are violent. The foundations of it are extremely violent. That's not, and do you know what? We're talking about like cosmetic surgery alone. However, it's the same argument for going to the gym to try and lose weight. I feel like we try and separate the two, but actually no, because how you feel about your body, it's a mental thing. So somebody going to surgery, somebody drinking like the laxatives and drinking all these slimming tea and going to Slimming World and literally just what's the word? Not giving the body the nutrients that they need. Is the same violence. You're inflicting the same violence on your body. It's just it's different ways. And of course there are obviously benefits to going to the gym. However, what you're trying to, it's the same violence that's happening.
I think the key difference, I think, with when you're engaging in any of this type of wahala is like what the intention is, or what the reasoning. Because I think if with like the gym and stuff like that, I think if you're going there to try and be healthy and as opposed to, and I don't know, maybe somehow if the definition of health somehow coincides with you having to lose weight, then like, okay, cool. But ultimately, like with the hope is that you're trying to just be healthy for like just generally for yourself.
Yeah.
And that doesn't. And whilst I think with society and not society, sorry, with well, yeah, society, but like the way that health and weight has been talked about in media, it almost it equates it, right, to thinness or slimness being healthy,
the ultimate goal.
Yeah, but that isn't reality.
Yep.
And again, that thing again comes into medicine, right? Because then that's how you go into your GP or whatever, and you're asking for support with this and this, and all they're saying to you is lose weight.
It's so jarring, so jarring. There's a quote that I was trying to find by Kelechi, where she basically talks about how honoring the body, the vessel that you have, listening to it because it has never let you down and will never let you down. Just listening to it. Just listening to your body. And if I was about to say if surgery is the way to go, but let me not even say that. Just listen to your body. Like, listen to what it is your body is telling you. You are the only person that can speak the language that your body is speaking. Yeah. So don't let anybody try and like interpret it differently, because you're the only interpreter that exists for that language.
I think the thing that really helped me was our generation had like this really interesting, I think we were in this interesting position where we were at like the very end of the Kate Moss era, going into this whole like bigger body being beautiful. Yeah. Like the big bum.
Yeah. But on a light skinned person.
Yeah, on a like But we were privy to that change. We saw it happening in front of our eyes. Like we were there at the literal change, which I think is a really unique position to be in. And for me, that was a big part of me realizing like, oh, it's all just made up. It's all lies. There isn't a point you're going to get to and think you're satisfied. There isn't a point of success in the way that they are trying to make us think. Yeah. That prize doesn't exist. Yeah. And that, for me, that was a really, really big part of it. Obviously, again, my community that I was in. Also, I think learning history and like more, I think with growing up as well, like thoroughly really understanding what it actually means and how that informs reality, or like how that informs the now. A big part for me was like understanding that, okay, the people that did slavery are the people that inform societal norms and ideals now. And if I understand,
if you're common sense, if those brain cells in there,
if I understand that what they were doing was so horrific and it was so just inhumane and not based in any truth and any love and any
heavy on the love,
any of it, how can I then use their yardstick to measure what I deem as beautiful, how I see myself, how I perceive myself in relation to all of this stuff? Like it had like those two, it was such a huge contradiction for me at the time, and I was in the right space and right time to be able to really, really receive that. And I thank God.
You did.
I thank God, because to be in the shackles that I was in when I was young,
not your portion.
It's not my portion.
Not anyone. It shouldn't be anyone's portion
at all.
Not anybody's portion.
And that's that thing we were talking about before, like, and I think in a previous episode, where it's like unlearning a lot of this stuff and just like relearning new things and relearning new ways to love yourself and to therefore like interact in this society. It's so liberating. It's peace.
I'm going to talk about this in my next episode, like my own journey. I'll briefly just say, for me, it was not weighing myself and not stepping on a scale. Yeah. And even in terms of like calorie counting, all these different things. Numbers, because numbers are so constricting, and they're so just all these numbers, like you're saying, how is my measurement of myself on a yardstick of somebody who has oppressed me in the past make sense?
And also, we're just different. Like, our bodies are literally different. How can you use what you're measuring this person with the same as you're measuring me? It doesn't make, the two don't come together. They don't collide.
It doesn't even come anywhere close.
They don't harmonize.
Whoa. You know what they call that in Uganda?
But I think I'll just leave it there. I'm just so glad that I have been able to come out of that space, and I'm in now a different space. I have different problems now, but they're problems I can handle.
Freedom!
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Just, honestly, heavy on the different problems now, because you know what? This is I'm saying this very lightly, but like, do you know insecurities and all those things? Oh. What do you mean I can't wear a cute little dress in my prime? Listen, you see what Janelle Monáe is on right now?
Oh my God, Janelle!
What she is on right now?
Next.
I wish that version for every girl in the way in which aligns with their being. I wish that for every single person in a way that aligns with their being. Yeah. Because this is how we should constantly be viewing our bodies. Because our bodies are just so beautiful.
Yeah. Celebrating our forms, bro.
Celebrating the different forms which exist. Celebrating and just honoring them. Yeah. Honoring them, because the thing is, again, next episode, but the idea of like, we're able to show up, not just because our bodies. There's a friend of mine who she has this company, I'd say, maybe. She was basically saying how when she's meditating, it's called Manifesting Legacy, check it out on Instagram. When she's meditating, she will touch all the different aspects of her body, and she will be like, I thank you for these arms because I'm able to hug people. I thank you for these legs because I'm able to walk away from situations or run away from situations of danger.
Run.
Girl, I'm gonna need to run to the airport and get it.
What that just reminds me of, right, is just the idea that it's like our bodies. It's that it's like that thing that Colette just said, which is that, you know, our bodies haven't failed us. Like they hold us. They hold our consciousness. They hold who we actually are, right? Because ultimately, like, I'm not my body. That's one thing. So if you're judging me based on my body, that's wild. That's a wild thing to actually think and to exist in. But it's like our body, not to use that bloody term, our body's a temple.
They are, and that's why, like, do you know when we talk about with the discussion of like health and everything else, when you go into the gym or when you're making amendments to your body, are you honoring that vessel, and are you honoring it the same way it's honored you, right? And are you protecting it? And so even that whole concept of, if you're going to be active and fit, you're doing that because you're also respecting the fact that it's always shown up for you. And so you're having nutritious foods because you're honoring that you're honoring this vessel that's going to carry you through all the different like for us, childbirth, if we do go down that route, illness, all these different things. Yeah. It's reciprocity.
Yeah. And do you know what? This was something that I'd put to talk about in like some of the other things that we're going to talk about. But I think Cynthia Enrivo? Is that how you say her name? Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
Whoa. Well, anyway, this black actress. It's just a clip of an interview that she was doing, and she said something. It was along the lines, I'm paraphrasing here. When you're doing something, when you're eating, you're about to do something, you just ask yourself, like, am I loving my body by doing this?
Wow.
And that's exactly what you've just been saying.
Oh. Yeah, even like the intimate relationships that you're with. Am
I loving myself? Am I loving who I am, me, by engaging in this?
But you know what? It's hard because those kind of questions, they intersect with the fact that can you even afford to buy food?
The answer is no. For me, anyway. Let me not speak about others. I don't know their financial bracket or that jazz.
Yeah, I think you can only, you know what, you can only do what you can. These conversations are so ongoing. Yeah. You can only do what you can, and because honouring your body takes so many different forms. If you can't afford it, go outside, sit in the sun, get that vitamin D. I remember my GP prescribed me vitamin D, and I was like, why am I taking tablets for a natural vitamin? Girl, tell me to go outside. If I'm anxious,
is it even telling you leave, or is it telling you leave? Because if there's not even like the literal things that you need to be a human,
it's not even telling me. It's shouting down my ear. Get out.
Get out my pub.
But yeah, honestly, right, Danny.
Yes.
To round up such a meaty conversation.
Yeah, meaty.
Yeah. What's your lazy person's guide to saving the world for this week? How are you going to look after yourself? Speaking of looking after yourself and the communities.
For me, what I've got today is just mindfulness.
Yeah. Or
something that means that you are slowing down to listen to what it is that you're thinking about. Yeah. Paying attention to your body, the sensations of your body, what it is that you need, because when you're in that go state, which is unfortunately how it is, you know, you're in that go state. You've got to go to work, you've got the second job, you've got to take care of the kids, you've got to go home, you've got to do this project, you've got to do your assignments, you've got to get to sleep, you've got to cook.
There are so many things distracting us. There's so many distractions.
So many distractions. And for me, mindfulness is that's what it is. It's slowing down and hearing your body. And I think as well, a key thing for me is that it helps to make my body safe for me, because
heavy on that.
Because as someone who thinks a lot and holds a lot in, and internalizes a lot, I tend to try to distract my mind from what it is that I'm thinking and how I'm actually feeling, because I know it's very uncomfortable and it's not going to be a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
And with mindfulness, it helps me to it teaches me how to cope with those negative feelings in a way that is not just pushing them away. Yeah. It helps me to sit and to just sit in them in a way that I can handle, that I can cope. And of course it's not easy. It's not like I do it once and I'm done. But it's that practice, and it gets easier every time. Yeah. And it's like that thing that you talked about again previously before. It's like just trying to stay committed to like where it is that I want to get to, where I'm okay with like experiencing discomfort and experiencing like really difficult feelings like shame or embarrassment or failure, and just sadness as well, and not telling myself don't cry. It's like, why are you holding in your tears? Just cry.
Honestly,
they want to come out, so let it come out, and don't let all of that build inside your body and manifest physically.
Because like Scott says, it's the beginning of, to be fair, it's the beginning of your body.
Yeah.
Surrendering and just asking.
Yeah. And there's that other book that I want to read. It essentially talks about the same thing, like about trauma being in the body, but it's called The Body Keeps Score.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So try some mindfulness, guys. And if it's not mindfulness, if that's not what it works for you, then try something in the same vein.
Yeah, because some people pray and that helps them.
Yeah. Whatever it is that is helpful in that specific capacity, try and engage in that more regularly.
Do you know, I feel like we're definitely in a society where we underestimate the power of like the present moment, and we're literally constantly on the bloody go.
We've only got one life, kids.
Only one life.
And if we're constantly in our brain, if we're so completely like, if the word is cerebral, and we're in the future, we're thinking about what we're gonna do, or we're in the past thinking about, I wish I'd said this, I wish I could have changed that. And potentially sometimes it's just that you've had a really traumatic experience and you don't know how to come out of that. Either way, you're not living life.
No.
You're not living the now.
My therapist also usually says like, your anxiety is fueled by future and your past. It's not the present moment.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you dragging me? Excuse you.
I'm paying you.
Like, nobody told you to be rude.
Don't be mean to me. But yeah, what's your love note? Not love note, bloody hell. What's your action point for this week?
My action point, I've actually just changed it right now, listening to what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, I want to encourage people to place their bare feet on the ground. Maybe I implore people for this week to spend 5 minutes with their feet on actual ground, not inside the house, but actually outside. Because who was it that was saying how we live in such a society where where our feet are actually not planted on the ground, and how is that going back to the idea of mindfulness? It's all feeding into the fact that we're not grounded in the present moment. When I think about going back to like Uganda and stuff, we always had our shoes off. There's a reason why like there's an importance in being able to feel the physical ground,
right,
and being able to be in the present moment. So I'm gonna try it, but try and get into the habit of, even in the house, like people have house shoes and all these things. You guys, your feet aren't even touching your... Anywho, Danny, thank you so much for sharing and being vulnerable with not just me, but to the listeners. That's very beautiful.
Thank you for listening and holding space for me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah. And next episode, we're gonna just explore more of Penny's journey with her body, and we're gonna talk about some like other little tidbits to do with our body, like our favorite part.
Exactly. You know what? There's just so much that we haven't covered that like we're gonna get into it.
We're gonna get into it.
Let me shut up. But yeah, thank you. As usual, our socials. Sorry, were you about to read out the socials? Go on, Danny. I'm right there.
Our socials are on Instagram are at the offdutypod. Twitter at the offdutypod. Gmail is offdutypodsubmissions@gmail.com. And we hope that you let us know about your journeys and any things that came to mind when we were talking. Literally all of it we want to hear. We want to talk about it. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. Wishing you a pleasant week. See you soon.
Catch you on the
Flip side.